will go in. I actually got a message from my husband earlier this evening that he already found 5 of the chicks deceased. So we had 2 in the boxes gone before they even got here, and 5 deceased within 6 hours. We already had 5 flock loss. So let's give you a look at the birds and let's talk about what the situation was. Hey y'all, Melissa here. Last set of meat chickens we're going to raise at our small family farm, Twin Oaks Family Farm in Southeast Ohio. Going to give you a look at the flock. This is how real chicken is made. It comes from real chickens, and they start out the size of a chicken egg, and when it works right, they can be ready for poultry production in 35 to 42 days. So we'll fill you in on the rough start that this flock got and how it could impact production. But we appreciate you joining us. We hope you'll stick around and see how producing top quality poultry starts. So here's the video. God bless you. Thanks. Okay, y'all, welcome back. Welcome back to Twin Oaks Family Farm. Night check on a chicken flock. This is actually September 11th, 2025, about 10 o'clock at night. They are so cute. I know they're cute. They are in production for meat, so they will be raised a predetermined amount of time, and then they will be much bigger at that point, and they will look a lot different than this. And at the end of the production cycle, the finished chickens will be butchered and processed for poultry. But y'all, if you eat meat, it comes basically from production agriculture or from hunting. So this is an example of production agriculture. We do this on a pretty small scale. There is, so what's there now? So there was 431 counted in to the flock population at move-in. We lost 5, according to what Jared told me about an hour ago. So 431 minus 5. So right now we're at 426, but this is not looking good. So probably won't get too much closer on this. But I'm saying right here where this group is, I think there's 2 dead there probably. So that's 2 more. I'll get a closer look at that and confirm that. But that would take it, I'm pretty sure. But that would take it down to 424. So we're very we're hopeful for the very best outcome that we can have. But we're also very realistic that these birds had a lot going against them during transport and shipping. A lot going against them at move-in that's probably going to contribute to a higher flock loss than there would be otherwise. So I will give you a look here. So there's 2 little birds right there. I'm going to have to intervene and see what we've got happening. But there's 2 little birds laying down right there. And other birds are around them and walking around them and have stepped on them. So I'm surmising that those 2 that are laying down there have probably passed away. So I am going to actually check that out right now. And I think I'm also going to do something about that water right there. I might move one of those waters out a little bit somewhere. I might actually take one of those waters and move. We can follow the camera. I might move one of them over to that riser and have 2 at that riser and just 1 at this riser. We tend to put a lot of water access right down the center between those sets of lamps in order to let those chicks have really good access to water right between the lamps. But we need to create a little more space here. And I may need to actually, this heat lamp, we may need to drop it a little. It looks like they're huddling there. And in fact, all the heat lamps, I'm actually thinking, it looks like the birds are kind of huddling instead of forming a ring under the heat lamps. So they're telling us they want to be warmer. So we need to accommodate them. So now actually right there, okay. So that actually is really good right there. That's pretty much what we want to see. Okay, see how they don't have a perfect ring going, but basically those birds are laying down and getting comfortable out at the edge of that circle of the heat lamp shining down on the bedding, and that's what we want. But in some of these other spots, I don't see them making that circle. They're doing good there too. See, they're leaving the brightest part of that open, and that'll cause them to create kind of a circle there. But it seems like right here they're not doing that, and it seems like here they're not doing that so much, and over there. So they're kind of huddled into each other. So I think we need to drop those lamps like 1 or 2 links on the chains. What's concerning here is lots of birds moving there, and they've stepped over and over those 2 that are laying down, and there's no reaction from them to get up. And that's why I'm not in there immediately with an urgency, because by observing that, it's pretty sure thing not anything I'm going to be able to do for them at this point. So let me make some adjustments here to lamps and water, and then let me come back on here and tell you what happened to get this flock into this situation. They just arrived to the farm here this afternoon, so about 7 hours ago at this point. And we're gonna actually call this day 1. We're gonna call September 11th day 1 for this flock. So basically the situation with this flock was they were ordered for hatch on September 10th, which translates to they actually will arrive on farm on September 10th. So we get them from a hatchery in Southwest Ohio. We're in Southeast Ohio. The birds should ship from the hatchery on hatch day and arrive on hatch day. That's the way the whole thing is supposed to work. So in the instance of this flock, they were ordered for September 10th, and September 10th arrived and the birds didn't. And we were just continuing to be on standby for when the birds would arrive. It ended up they arrived on September 11th. We don't really know what time exactly they were at the destination post office. Saying they were there by 1:30 is probably generous, but let's say 1:30. Let's even be more generous. Let's say 12:30. So the destination post office is about half hour from where we live and where the farm is. And we were coordinating with our hatchery connection to get the birds from the destination post office to local and picking them up just about 5 minutes from the house and bringing them over here to move into the barn. So that was the whole destination process. They should have been here on the 10th. They arrive on the 11th. And when I get them, probably about 2:30 in the afternoon on the 11th, we get a little more information that it turns out there had been documented at 8:30 on the night of the 9th. So as far as we know, these birds shipped on the night of the 9th at 8:30 p.m. So if we run some math, 8:30 p.m. on the 10th was 24 hours. 8:30 a.m. today on the 11th was 36 hours. And even if we only go to 12:30 on the 11th, 12:30 p.m. on the 11th, that means 40 hours the birds were in shipping boxes and in transit. And that's way too long. That's way too long for little chicks. So at best, they had been in boxes 42 hours when we unpacked them on farm. And it's just too long. And I don't know where the responsibility for that falls, but they're shipped in the Postal Service. So as far as we know, these birds spent 2 overnights in the care of the Postal Service, and it's really not acceptable. It's not good. It's not good. So we needed to be getting feed into them optimally around 21 hours from when they were hatched. They were at least 42 hours in boxes. Normally our protocol is we move chickens in and we get them in, get them watered, get them counted, get them settled, and a couple hours later we offer them food. These birds were ready to eat as soon as we moved them in and got them watered, got them counted. We added food to the chicken pens. I'm gonna have to drop that light a little more. I already dropped it once. Probably gonna have to drop this one and the next one down just a little more. I think we're gonna leave the other ones where we were, but here's some of what we're dealing with. Like the one there that's moving a little, trying to follow the camera, already noticeably smaller than some of the other birds. So a lot of them in this flock, like that one, they lost body condition during transport, showing a lot of weakness. I've got one here laying down there by those 2 birds. The one in the center laying down. I've had it up. I've had it to water. It's shown a lot of weakness. Look how small the one walking there is. It lost condition during transport and weakened during shipping. These birds, for like 50 hours in, they should be bigger than they are. So they've already lost condition for their start. That's been their start. So they've had a rough start. And a big concern about this with meat chickens is it's really, really important. Ambient conditions are so important with meat chickens, and getting them a great start in their digestion processes is really, really important with meat chickens. So look how small this one is. So the 2 right there with their tails toward us, the one on the right, it's tiny. It's tiny. Tiny. Too tiny. Tinier than it should be. The initial concern then for us is, getting them moved in, getting them through the first week. But beyond that, there's a pretty grave concern about as these birds grow. So they're hybrids, basically, that are specialized to convert feed to meat efficiently, to grow rapidly, and to produce meat in a short amount of time. So for them to accomplish that, correspondingly, they have a big appetite. And we actually see that appetite compound and get bigger as they grow and during production. So there's actually about 3 points during production where we expect to see their appetite double at each point from what it was. So we've had an instance similar to this before where shipping got very delayed and the birds were very long time getting to us. And in that instance, what ended up happening was when those birds should have had appetite compound, they didn't. And we ended up with birds at finish on the small side because they didn't get the increased appetite, and therefore they didn't support the growth pattern with enough food. That's the long view concern. Are these birds going to experience the appetite compound that will support the growth pattern? I'm really, really concerned that they won't get the appetite compound. But we're going to hope for the best. We're going to hope for really good ambient conditions. We're going to hope for as many of them as possible to bounce back from this initial setback and from this initial weakness. And we're going to hope that the growth pattern tilts to normal as we raise this flock. This is our last ever flock that we're going to raise. We're getting out of meat production from poultry. and it is a really bad start. It's a really bad start for them. So, I mean, this is what you deal with. Our boys, they have a catchphrase. They go, "We're farming." This is farming, friends. Troubleshooting, navigating the negatives, and trying to position for the positives as much as we can. Here's a concern. Look at this bird. Let's see. Oh, there it is. The one like moving around there. It's weak. A lot of these birds are really weak, and that came from the extended transit time in shipping. This is bad. It's really bad. It's not a good start. So anyway, you know, I don't know what happened. I'm in my brain, logically, if these birds had a shipping label created Tuesday night at 8:30, and they were coming from Southwest Ohio to destination Southeast Ohio, which if you got in your vehicle and drove it, I can get a truck there in about 4 hours. So logically, if they had a shipping label Tuesday night, they should have been here Wednesday, is my perspective on it. And they didn't get here until Thursday afternoon. So that's something you get into with shipping live animals. But so one thing I can tell you is this kind of incident isn't the reason we're getting out of poultry production, meat production, but this is a factor that contributed to confirming that decision, because one thing we had already said this summer was if we were going to continue into 2026 raising these meat chickens, we would change our protocol for getting the birds here, and we would stop relying on shipping, and we would start just planning a day that whenever hatch day is scheduled, we would ask for a pickup time. We would drive to the hatchery, pick the birds up, and drive straight home. And we should be able to make that trip in 4 hours at best, and certainly 8 hours or less if there were unforeseen circumstances, most likely. At least we would know if we went and picked the birds up ourselves, at least we would know that they're not going to be stuck in boxes for 40 hours sitting in a postal facility somewhere. And I just can't understand really how it happened that they were in the postal system for 2 nights. So I just don't think that should have happened that way. But this is what we got, and you show up at the table to play the card game. You play the hand you're dealt. So that's the hand we're dealt, and we're going to have to make the best of it. It is difficult to start this way, because very noticeably a lot of the birds came out of the shipping boxes weak and in decreased body condition from what they should have been, and that all comes down to the length of time that they were in that transit situation. So we're going to do our best now, but they do show appetite. They do show mobility for the most part. Most of them, they're going to water. They're starting to manure, so that's a good sign. But it just definitely was not the start we wanted, especially to our finale flock here. So good news is, actually, none of those little birds that I was concerned about had passed away. They actually were still responsive. These aren't them, but I had picked those 2 up and taken them to water and spent quite a bit of time with them at water, making sure they got all the water they wanted, and standing them up on their legs and encouraging them to walk a little bit. Hopefully encourage some good healthy circulation. But the bad news is both of them looked very weak. Honestly, I don't really think they'll make it overnight. So we'll just see how night 1, we're gonna label this day 1, September 11th, day 1. So we'll see how night 1 goes. We'll keep you updated. You can follow this flock actually start to finish. We hope to end with at least 400. We ordered 425 birds, so we'll see where